Hello everyone, Daryl the Northern Vinyl Guy back at you with another Styles video series that I'm doing in which I'm going through subgenres of music according to Discogs app, starting with the subgenres or styles as they're now known on Discogs with the albums that I only have one of in my collection, and then I will progressively go in which I will have multiple copies of different records in specific subgenres. So this is my part 4 video in which I only have one album in my collection that meets the criteria for each of these genres. So if you haven't seen my previous videos in this series, definitely check them out. It's been a little bit since I've been doing videos. I did one a few days ago, but previous to that it's been over a month. So trying to get back into the swing of things. So here we go, Styles video number 4, and we are starting with the style called modal, M-O-D-A-L, modal, which from what I understand is, looking at modes of scale, mainly with jazz musicians and stuff like that. And so the album that I have in my collection, I've shown this before, Joe Farrell's Outback record, which also features Chick Corea, Buster Williams, Elvin Jones, jazz musicians. So it kind of fits the jazz mold. The coolest thing I think about this particular record and records that are in the series is that it forms a picture when you open up the gatefold on the outside, and then of course you see the jazz musicians on the inside. But at one point back in the 1970s when this came out, you could actually order an actual print of the picture itself through an ordering mail service. So there we go, Joe Farrell. It's not often that I listen to jazz music, but every now and again it's kind of cool. One thing I didn't realize as I was looking him up, he died quite young of not a rare form of cancer, but a blood cancer that took his life at the age of 48. So yeah, kind of tragic ending to that story. So there you go, modal, form of jazz or scale music. Up next, I've got ballet music. Now, this one's once again, I inherited this through my grandparents or different collections. I would normally never collect ballet music, but the interesting thing about this is it's the it's Offenbach, but it is conducted and performed by the London Royal Philharmonic group orchestra. So it's part of the Offenbach ballet, but it's done through kind of an orchestral situation. The back to this kind of gives a bit of a history of the performance and the styles here, but there you go. I do not know how to pronounce that. I believe it is German, the Gaieté Parisienne Ballet Suite. So once again, something I don't typically listen to is ballet music, but this one is done through the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra. And yes, actually, on the back, you can see up here the signature is Mrs. Shannon, which was my grandmother. So this is actually my grandmother's copy, not my grandfather's copy. Neat stuff. All right, next is Impressionist music. Impressionist music. I should have put this together, I guess, with the modal music earlier. But this is Hubert Laws and the Rite of Spring album. Very similar to the first one that I showed, the Joe Farrell, where it opens up and you got a print of I believe that is a leopard, and then on the inside of it is the grill of a 1960s vehicle of some sort. But yeah, I mean, Impressionist music, modal music, it kind of fits the same bill. It's all jazz music. Just different styles. You could call it fusion, or you could call it jazz, maybe jazz funk or slow jazz. But they all kind of fit that jazz bill. So impressionist, modal, that kind of thing. Hubert Law's The Rite of Spring. Right. Up next, we got pop punk. So how do we go from ballet to jazz to pop punk? Well, pop punk, I don't have very many punk records. This is the only one that meets it. I've talked about this story before. So my wife got this for me for Christmas, but back when I was in high school, I won a shop award in grade 10, and the shop award was a gift receipt to a local video and CD store, and I bought Green Day's Dookie on CD. Now this is I forget what year this is. This is a 2008 repress on just a black vinyl. But yeah, every time I look at Green Day's Dookie cover album, you can find all kinds of different things every time you look at it, almost like a Where's Waldo type thing. And this one here is just chock full of some of their first hits, right? Burnout, Longview, Basket Case, Welcome to Paradise, When I Come Around, and all of that. And of course, there's the hidden track, All By Myself, at the very end. So, Billy Joe Armstrong and company, this kind of got me into drumming, I guess, in the 1990s when I started playing drums in high school, always trying to play the Basket Case beat and all that kind of stuff. I still have never figured it out. And apparently it's one of the easier punk things that you can do. Anyway, Green Day and Dookie meeting the pop punk, because it was on, Much Music and MTV and things like that. So it meets that pop radio type style. All right, another, this one here is a box set of, I guess, music that might fit the orchestral, ballet, classical type thing. And this is oratorio music, which once again is just another way of saying like opera and classical and stuff. And this is the Handel, I think it's Handel's. Let me see here. I will open it up. Comes with a nice, George Friedrich Handel's Messiah. Basically, this comes with the original instrumentation. It's got a whole book on Handel's Messiah and what that came to be, his composition of work. You can kind of see the piano there, and sculpture of that's Handel himself, not even a sculpture. Handel's England, and it talks about Messiah over 200 years, and the history behind it in here. Very neat stuff. And then Colin Davis and some of the composers that were actively involved in the composition of this particular album. Heather Harper, Helen Watts, John Quirk, and more. And then, of course, the notes to it. So just kind of a neat overall thing. And then it has, the lyrics, which is basically, biblical scripture from the Bible for this piece of work. So yeah, really neat. I think it's 2 or 3 records, and about three records on the Columbia label and stuff like that. So there we go, Messiah and oratorio music. Next, this one here I can only show on a 45, and this is Frankie Smith's Double Dutch Bus, meeting the style of breaks that not early, but 70s and 80s, funk, R&B, that kind of thing. This is Double Dutch Bus on both sides. One of them's instrumental. Double Dutch Bus. My old roommate in university, Mike, used to play this. We used to dance around to this all the time. So Double Dutch Bus, really catchy. If you haven't, checked it out, do so. And wow, check that out. I actually got that for $1 at a thrift store. You don't see that anymore, even on 45s. So there we go. Next style category is nursery rhymes. Nursery rhymes. Nursery rhymes, when you think about it, pretty much think of like children's albums and stuff like that. But this is kind of a step up, I guess you would say. Part of a series. I got this as part of my my claiming of records at the old record station up here. Folk Songs of Canada, and this is on Bomar Records. You don't see that one too often. But Folk Songs of Canada, and these are just, I guess, kids' traditional songs that they could sing along to. Basically, all the lyrics and the locations on the inside, kind of a boring cover. But then on the back side, you can see that it's part of a series. Folk Songs of Canada, Folk Songs of the United States, Folk Songs of Pacific Neighbors, California and the Old West, Latin America, Children's Songs of Mexico, etc., etc. So it's part of a series that, kids could learn the folk music to. And so what is this? What folk Canadian songs do we have here? Well, we've got the Christmas Carol, Dance Song of the Chippewa. We've got Alouette. We've even got O Canada in its original form. Jack was every inch a sailor, to represent, the East Coast, Newfoundland and Nova Scotia, the Shanty Boys, New Brunswick. So it kind of goes over different regions of Canada in folk song perspective. All right, I've shown this one when I went to Spain last March. I picked this up at one of the music stores that I went to in, I think it was Barcelona. It was either that or Madrid. Can't remember off the top of my head. But anyway, this is goth rock and dark wave, or sorry, not dark wave, but cold wave. And this is Decima Victima out of Spain. They only released a few albums in the late 70s, early 80s. You could almost compare them to, say, Bauhaus or Joy Division, things like that. This is really dark. I would put this on more the dark side of goth. But it's very interesting. Got to be in a specific mood for this. And of course, these are predecessor bands for, genres such as industrial music, Ministry and Skinny Puppy and Nine Inch Nails. Would have taken some, influence from this genre. So we've got, like I said, we've got goth rock, cold wave, Decima Victima. If you haven't heard them, check them out if you're into like the Bauhaus, Joy Division type music. All right, second last album. We're moving back to the 1960s as part of the British invasion. But this is not the Beatles, this is not the Rolling Stones, but this is mod music. And I only have one, and that is the Dave Clark 5. I remember my dad had a CD when I was younger called Brits Blitz, and I believe Dave Clark 5 was on it. And this is their Bits and Pieces album. Of course, that's one of their big hits. Glad All Over, Do You Love Me, and others. Of course, they obviously did some similar styles to the Beatles and a lot of the British bands back then. I find that the Dave Clark 5 has been completely overshadowed by the Beatles and by the Rolling Stones, and I think that they're completely underrated. I think that they are a great band. And if you haven't heard them, check them out. Mod music. And last but not least, we have gangsta. So gangsta rap, or whatever we might want to call it. I want to get Snoop Dogg, and I want to get NWA and things like that. I haven't got around to it. The only gangster rap I have is Cypress Hill, self-titled album, because I don't know if Black Sunday is necessarily gangster rap per se, but this one definitely is right at that era. So, songs like Pigs and How I Could Just Kill a Man, Psycho Beat a Bucka Down, The Funky Cypress Hill Blank, Born to Get Busy. These are all like gangster style music, but with more of a Latino Hispanic flair to it. So that is the one that meets that bill, because I don't have, like I said, I don't have NWA or Snoop Dogg or any of those rap groups from the late 80s, early 90s that were meeting that East versus West Coast gangster rap. So there we have it. Yet again, another set of records in my styles series. Let me know, have you heard of any of these styles? And if you have, do you have any of them in your collection? Have you heard of any of these musicians or, operas / ballets, performances? Let me know down in the comment section below. Leave a thumbs up and click the subscribe if you haven't already. And if you are a continued follower to my channel, thank you for tuning in. And until next time, we will see you on the flip side.